In June 2024, NASA astronauts Sunita Williams and Barry Butch Wilmore embarked on what was planned to be an 8-day mission aboard the International Space Station, ISS. Both seasoned spacefarers, they were eager to contribute to the ongoing scientific endeavors of the station. However, shortly after their arrival, technical malfunctions in their return spacecraft, Boeing Starliner, were discovered, rendering it unsafe for re-entry. This unforeseen complication extended their mission indefinitely, transforming a brief stay into a prolonged odyssey. Wall Street Journal. The initial days of the extension were met with optimism. Suni and Butch adapted to the situation, integrating themselves into the daily routines of the ISS crew. They participated in over 150 experiments ranging from biological studies to technological demonstrations, contributing valuable data to NASA's research objectives. Their expertise and camaraderie were invaluable assets to the team, fostering a sense of unity amid uncertainty. Latest news and breaking headlines. As weeks turned into months, the psychological challenges of their extended stay began to surface. The isolation from family and friends, coupled with the confined environment of the ISS, tested their mental resilience. NASA's behavioral health support teams provided regular psychological consultations, offering coping strategies to manage stress and maintain mental well-being. Despite these efforts, the monotony of space life and the uncertainty of their return date weighed heavily on their spirits. NASA. One particularly challenging aspect was the disruption of their circadian rhythms. Aboard the ISS, astronauts experienced 16 sunrises and sunsets each day, leading to sleep disturbances and fatigue. To mitigate these effects, Suni and Butch adhered to strict sleep schedules and utilized light therapy to regulate their internal clocks. These measures were crucial in maintaining their cognitive functions and overall health during the prolonged mission. Wikipedia, Die Freie Enzyklopädie. The physical toll of microgravity also became more pronounced over time. Both astronauts engaged in daily exercise routines to combat muscle atrophy and bone density loss, common issues during long-duration spaceflight. Despite their diligence, they experienced muscle stiffness and joint discomfort, reminders of the harsh realities of living in space. New York Post. Communication with loved ones served as a lifeline during this period. Video calls and emails allowed Suni and Butch to stay connected with their families, providing emotional support and a sense of normalcy. These interactions were bittersweet as milestones and events were missed, deepening their longing for home. Nevertheless, the unwavering support from Earth bolstered their determination to persevere. Throughout this ordeal, Suni and Butch remained committed to their mission. They conducted spacewalks to repair and upgrade station equipment, ensuring the ISS remained operational. Suni set a new record for total spacewalking time by a female astronaut, a testament to her dedication and resilience. NASA. As their time on the ISS approached 9 months, plans for their return began to solidify. NASA coordinated with SpaceX to facilitate their journey home aboard the Crew 9 Dragon spacecraft. The prospect of returning to Earth brought a mix of relief and apprehension. While eager to reunite with loved ones, they were aware of the challenges that reacclimation to Earth's gravity would entail. In March 2025, Suni and Butch, along with fellow astronauts Nick Hague and Russian cosmonaut Alexander Gorbanov, departed the ISS. The descent was smooth, culminating in a splashdown off the coast of Florida. Recovery teams swiftly retrieved the crew, and medical personnel began immediate assessments to address the effects of prolonged weightlessness. Wall Street Journal. The journey that began as a routine mission had transformed into an extraordinary testament to human endurance and adaptability. Suni and Butch's experiences highlighted the psychological and physical challenges of long-duration spaceflight, providing invaluable insights for future missions. Their story resonated with people worldwide, inspiring a deeper appreciation for the sacrifices and resilience of those who venture beyond our planet. Part 2. The Road to Recovery. Upon returning to Earth, Suni and Butch faced the formidable task of readjusting to terrestrial life. The transition from microgravity to Earth's gravity was abrupt, leading to balance issues, muscle weakness, and cardiovascular readjustments. NASA's medical teams had prepared comprehensive rehabilitation programs tailored to each astronaut's needs, focusing on physical therapy, nutrition, and gradual reintroduction to daily activities. The psychological adjustment was equally challenging. The isolation and confinement experienced during their extended mission had lasting effects on their mental health. Feelings of disorientation, mood swings, and difficulty reintegrating into social settings were common. NASA's behavioral health experts provided continuous support, employing strategies such as counseling and peer support groups to facilitate their emotional recovery. NASA. Suni found solace in reconnecting with nature. She spent time hiking and gardening, activities that grounded her and provided a sensory richness absent in space. These experiences were therapeutic, aiding in her psychological healing and reconnection with Earth's environment. Butch, on the other hand, immersed himself in family life. Reuniting with his wife and children brought immense joy, but also required patience as they readjusted to his presence. He cherished simple moments like sharing meals and attending his children's events, activities he had longed for during his time on the ISS. Both astronauts engaged in debriefings and shared their experiences to contribute to NASA's understanding of long-duration missions. Both astronauts engaged in debriefings and shared their experiences to contribute to NASA's understanding of long-duration missions. Their insights became crucial for shaping future plans, particularly NASA's Artemis program, which aims to establish a sustainable human presence on the Moon and eventually send astronauts to Mars. During one such debriefing, Sunita Williams spoke candidly about the emotional toll of isolation. She described waking up some days feeling an overwhelming sense of disconnection. No matter how many video calls I had, the reality was, I missed the warmth of human touch, she said, her voice trembling slightly. There were moments I questioned if I'd ever return home or if this was how my story would end. One of the most challenging periods, she revealed, came during the holidays. While the ISS crew celebrated Christmas together, exchanging small, thoughtful gifts and sharing recorded messages from their families, there was an undeniable ache. I remember floating near the observation window, watching Earth spin below, she said. It was beautiful but heartbreaking. I could see the lights of cities glowing, knowing that my family was down there without me. Butch Wilmore, too, shared a haunting moment when he grappled with the psychological strain. After a critical systems check one evening, he found himself alone in the station's quiet corridor. I don't know why, but the silence got to me, he admitted. For a minute, I felt like I wasn't coming back. I had to remind myself this is temporary. We will return home. Their honesty during these sessions deeply moved those who listened. Even the most seasoned NASA veterans were humbled by the profound vulnerability Suni and Butch displayed. The journey back to a normal life wasn't just physical, it was emotional. Simple activities like walking on grass or feeling rain on their skin became extraordinary. Suni described her first visit to the beach after returning home. I took off my shoes and let my feet sink into the sand, she recalled. The sensation was so foreign, so real. I just started crying. But for all the darkness, there were bright moments too. Sunita described how the support from fellow astronauts on the ISS became a lifeline. We became a family up there, she said. When one of us struggled, the others lifted us up. They celebrated birthdays with floating cakes and played music to lift their spirits. Butch even took up journaling, documenting the small victories of each day, a habit he continued back on Earth to process the profound shift in his perspective. As their physical strength returned, both astronauts turned their attention outward to the next generation of explorers. Sunita became an outspoken advocate for encouraging young women to pursue STEM careers, sharing her experiences with schools across the United States. In one televised address, she told a group of middle school students, space isn't just about technology. It's about the human spirit, our courage to face the unknown and come back stronger. Butch, meanwhile, worked closely with NASA engineers to refine the Starliner spacecraft, determined to ensure future missions wouldn't face the same challenges. Every setback teaches us something, he said in a public statement. We owe it to those who follow to make it safer and better. And yet, despite their professional commitments, both Suni and Butch admitted that the experience forever changed their relationship with time and family. I used to think my work was the most important thing, Suni confessed. But when you spend months in space, cut off from the people you love, you realize nothing matters more than those human connections. The speech she delivered 6 months after her return became a defining moment, a raw and emotional account of their darkest days. When she finished, the auditorium fell into a heavy silence before the first sobs broke through. Even hardened journalists wiped tears from their eyes. "We survived," she concluded, her voice firm despite the tears shimmering in her eyes. "Not because we were strong alone, but because we never gave up on each other." Part 3, the speech that shook the world. When Sunita Williams stepped onto the stage at the Kennedy Space Center, the audience fell into a hushed anticipation. It wasn't just another NASA press conference, this was personal. This was the moment where the world would finally hear the untold story behind the polished reports and scientific jargon. The lights dimmed slightly as the large screen behind her displayed an image of Earth rising over the curvature of the moon, a reminder of humanity's fragile existence in the vast cosmos. Suni stood tall, dressed in a crisp navy blue suit, the NASA emblem gleaming on her shoulder. But despite her composed exterior, there was a weight behind her eyes, a reflection of the months spent in isolation. "I want to talk about what the reports didn't capture," she began, her voice steady but soft. "The truth is, there were days when I didn't know if I would make it home." Gasps rippled through the audience. Until that moment, the public had only heard about the technical challenges, the Starliner malfunctions, the extended mission, the scientific breakthroughs. But no one had spoken about the human toll. "There was one night when I was floating alone in the module," she continued. "I was supposed to be resting, but I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about my father, the lessons he taught me when I was young. He used to say, 'Suni, even in the darkest night, the stars are still shining.' And yet, in that moment, I couldn't see the stars. All I felt was the weight of silence." Her voice faltered, just for a breath, but she pressed on. "I missed my family. I missed the feel of the wind on my face. There's a loneliness in space that no one can prepare you for. And when our mission kept getting delayed, it felt like that loneliness might never end." In the front row, a woman dabbed her eyes with a handkerchief. Suni's raw honesty struck a chord with everyone listening because, at its core, her story wasn't just about astronauts. It was about the human condition, the yearning to belong, to survive, and to hold on to hope when everything feels impossible. But even in those moments, she said, her voice gaining strength, we held on. Not just because we're astronauts, but because we are human. And humans don't give up. She shared how the crew created rituals to stay sane, how Butch would tell corny jokes, how they marked time by floating small gifts on each other's birthdays, how the simple act of watching Earth from the cupola became their reminder that home was still out there, waiting. And then came the moment that made the room tremble. "There was a day," Suni said, "when I recorded a message for my family because I wasn't sure if I would ever see them again. I wanted my niece to know how proud I was of her. I wanted my husband to know how much I loved him. I wanted them to know that, no matter what happened, I had fought with everything I had." The room grew still, so still that the faint hum of the building's ventilation system became audible. People held their breath. "And yet we did make it home," she said, tears finally escaping down her face. "We made it because we refused to let the darkness win." As she finished, the audience rose to their feet in a thunderous standing ovation. Many wiped tears from their eyes, while others simply stood in awe of the resilience before them. And in that moment, Sunita Williams wasn't just an astronaut. She was a symbol of human endurance, the reminder that even when everything seems lost, there is always a way home. And with those words, Sunita Williams' story became more than a tale of survival. It became a testament to the strength of the human spirit, the light that shines even in the darkest of days.